It is Sunday, May 4th, and President Trump delivering a powerful message to China this morning in a new exclusive interview saying Xi Jinping is about to cave. The Chinese economy quickly careening off a cliff. New intel suggesting Xi running out of time. We're going to show you also Trump taking a victory lap on his handling of the U.S. economy and announcing the U.S. is about to go in the green, about to clear a profit, a surplus. No more borrowing money from China to fund our endless deficit. We're about to start making a profit. How amazing is that? And more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So tomorrow will be 1 month since President Trump's infamous Liberation Day ceremony. April 5th was Liberation Day. That was 1 month ago tomorrow, the day when the United States ended the decades of selling this country out. Politicians from both parties selling out American workers, American businesses to foreign countries like China. For weeks, the media and Dems trying their hardest, using every trick in their playbook to paint Trump's trade and economic policies in this bad light, to shape Liberation Day as a negative, fear-mongering to its finest, using the volatility in markets to show why Trump's wrecking our economy. Well, what do you know? 1 month later, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow, all recovering completely. All the major indexes are back to where they were on April 5th. So all the hysterics from the panicking class, all the moaning and groaning about tariffs was just that. It was panic, noise. The tariffs now baked into markets. The S&P closing up again Friday, gaining for 9 straight days, making it the longest winning streak since November 2004. President Trump sitting down with Kristen Welker of NBC for this exclusive interview saying, I told you there would be a transition, and we're still partially in that transition, but it's all up from here. Watch.
You've been arguing all week that this is President Biden's economy. Is this now your economy, sir?
Well, I think certain aspects of it are. Costs are. I was able to get down the costs, but even that, it takes a while to get them down, but we got them down good. We lost $5 to $6 billion a day with Biden. $5 to $6 billion. And I've got that down to a great number right now in a record time. You know, we're talking about 100 days. But just think of what that is. $5 billion a day we're losing on trade. And we were very tough with China, as you know. We put 145% tariff on. Nobody's ever heard of such a thing. And we've essentially cut off trade relationships by putting that much of a tariff on. And that's okay. We've gone cold turkey. That means that we're not losing. You know, we lost $1 trillion to China. $1 trillion. That means we're not losing $1 trillion when we go cold turkey because we're not doing business with them right now. And they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal very badly. We'll see how that all turns out, but it's got to be a fair deal.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now. And I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything. I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastically.
Are you worried about a recession?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we're going to have the greatest economic...
I mean, are you worried it could happen? Do you think it could happen?
Anything can happen. But I think we're going to have the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to have the greatest economic boom in history.
When Trump entered office on January 20th, the U.S. was losing around $5 billion a day. A day. Each day we were burning $5 billion with a B. In a matter of 100 days, Trump's managed to almost completely reverse that deficit thanks to tariffs, thanks to the extra revenue that's being generated. Think about it. With just the 10% universal tariff plus the special tariffs we have on China at 145% to 25% steel, aluminum, auto tariffs, we've managed to almost entirely eliminate our deficit. Trump's saying soon, though, we're going to be at a point where we're making money every day. Imagine that. The United States making a profit, a surplus, instead of borrowing from China to fund our deficit. Roll the tape.
We're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than $5 billion a day. $5 billion a day. You don't talk about that. And right now, we're going to be at a point very soon where we're making money every day. Look,
how soon?
We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars with China. Now we're essentially not doing business with China. Therefore, we're saving hundreds of billions of dollars. Very simple.
So let me get this right. The last month of minor volatility was the cost we had to endure to fix this mess, to reshore American manufacturing, to fix the trade deficit, stop the endless borrowing. That's it. A few weeks of volatile markets. Yeah, I'm happy to pay that price as an American. Tariffs now baked in and markets marching higher. Once again, Trump proven right. The interview with Kristen Welker covering broad range of topics, everything from Russia, Ukraine to China, which we're going to get to in a minute. Big news about China, to running for a third term, to Canada, Greenland. Anything and everything was covered in this interview. And as hard as Kristen Welker tried to craft the questions, craft the interview in this negative light, it just didn't work for her. When it came to immigration, even Kristen Welker of NBC had to admit the border is now the most secure it's ever been. Watch this.
Let's talk about the border.
Okay.
Let's talk about deportations. Border crossings are at their lowest level ever recorded. Is the border?
Is that good?
Is the border now secure?
Yeah, it's really secure.
It's absolutely
Isn't that good?
secure.
When you say that, doesn't that just sound good? After being abused for years by an incompetent president that allowed people to pour through an open border, criminals from all over the world, murderers and insane people from mental institutions and insane asylums. Isn't it a beautiful thing when you say it's the most secure it's ever been in the history of our country? Isn't that a nice thing? No, it's not the emergency. The border is it's all part of the same thing, though. The big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to
Some
court.
of them you appointed, sir, including
That's all right.
3 on the Supreme Court.
They change. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how that happens, but they do change.
Just to button this up, though, are you planning to lift that emergency order anytime soon? Now that the border's secure?
No, we have an emergency. We have a massive emergency. Overall, it's an overall emergency on immigration. And if the courts don't allow us to take people out, if we had to have a court case, think of it, every single person, we have millions of people. We're going to have millions of court cases. Figure 2 weeks of court case, it would be 300 years.
Then turning to trade, and most importantly to China, Trump saying the CCP is about to break, cave, saying China's economy is crashing. Their factories are closing, and this week unemployment jumping again in their country. Big manufacturers in China closing up shop, furloughing workers, even laying them off in some cases, as these 145% tariffs are essentially a full-on embargo with China. The U.S. no longer doing business with China. Big companies like Apple and GM already moving factories back to the U.S. The Wall Street Journal reporting this week, China's trade representative officially asking Scott Bessent, what if we were to crack down on fentanyl? Will you lower your tariff rate then? The answer? Stone cold no. Too little, too late. The old 40-year status quo where you devalue your currency to pay for the endless exporting is over. Americans, we're happy to buy American. We are proud to see the products we buy say made in the USA. Watch.
Psychologically, I mean, the fake news was giving me such press on the tariffs. The tariffs are going to make us rich. We're going to be a very rich country.
So let's talk about the tariffs. And I want to ask you about something you said this week. Got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying
say they don't need
Americans
$30.
could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
But you're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariffs.
We don't have to waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk that we don't need.
You're not dropping the tariffs against China to get them to the negotiating table. Those tariffs are staying on.
Why would I do that?
Would you lower them?
At some point, I'm going to lower them because otherwise you could never do business with them.
Yeah.
And they want to do business very much. Look, their economy is really doing badly. Their economy is collapsing.
And in the interim, as this trade war continues, there are certain industries benefiting greatly from this Chinese embargo. Precious metals and domestic mining companies, for instance, being unleashed right now. Trump is opening up domestic mining. We've heard all the commotion for months about steel and aluminum, but another sector is copper, often called the new oil, is at the heart of America's future, used for everything. Howard Lutnick saying American industries depend on copper and it should be made in America, no exemptions, no exceptions. Trump also saying copper should be made in America. It's time for copper to come home. JP Morgan reporting copper is about to see the greatest tightening shock the market's ever seen. The Chinese copper stockpiles are going to be running out in weeks, comparing it to what we saw with gold over the last year, right? And copper stockpiles in China on track to dwindle to nothing in just a few months, if not a few weeks. Again, all part of Trump's plan to reshore American manufacturing and critical supply chains back home. Make what we need here at home. Copper, an absolute necessity, and we're hearing it's next in line to be added to the 25% universal tariff list, just like steel and aluminum were.
Protecting our steel and aluminum industries is a must, and today I'm simplifying our tariffs on steel and aluminum so that everyone can understand exactly what it means. It's 25% without exceptions or exemptions. And that's all countries, no matter where it comes from, all countries. If made in the United States, however, United States of America, there is no tariff, zero. So if it's made in the United States, there is no tariff. All you have to do is make it in the United States. We don't need it from another country.
All right, that wraps up the news portion of this video. Now let me tell you about the sponsor for today, Giant Mining. Check this out. Not only does it own and operate a copper, silver, gold project in Nevada, but it also recorded its best ever drill intercepts in September 2024. On February 14th, executive order signed by Trump, number 14213, was issued and implicitly prioritizes copper as a critical resource. Nevada, where Giant Mining's copper project is situated, has constantly ranked among the top mining jurisdictions in the world, which is why I'm bringing this company to your attention. Giant Mining's balance sheet fully funded for its drilling programs in 2025. Giant Mining is well positioned to accelerate its exploration efforts and potentially capitalize on emerging copper market opportunities. This is great news, in my view. The share price down by 50% since early February due to market turmoil. So I'm highlighting the company to you today for a reason, folks. Giant Mining owns the Majuba Hill Copper Project, a past-producing mine. In the past 4 years, management and the company's geologists have actually expanded the copper deposit, and this past September, Giant Mining hit their best ever drill hole. Historic underground mines at the Majuba Hill project produce copper, tin, and silver from the early 1900s to the 1950s, including 2.8 million pounds of copper, 184,000 ounces of silver, 5,800 ounces of gold, 21,000 pounds of tin. So I'll say it again, all of these factors and the following ones that I'm going to list off for you are why it's led to my significant bullish opinion about Giant Mining. The infrastructure already ready to go. They have access roads in place, power supply, transportation, water supply, ore stockpiles, processing space, processing plants. So look, do your homework on Giant Mining. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.